it on? Perfect. Okay. I'd like to call the March 9th, 2026 Peachtree City Planning Commission meeting to order. If all in attendance who are citizens of the United States would please rise and join me in pledging allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. We have I wouldn't say full house, but a fairly good number of people here, so that's always great to see. One of the things I would like to ask or like to bring up is that please understand this is not a public hearing. Public hearings are the only items that we can take public comment. So there is no public comment this evening since it's not a public hearing, or any of these are public hearings. In addition, I know probably some of you are very tied to one of the topics. I would just ask that please keep comments as we go through and discuss with staff as well as the developer to a minimum. Would definitely appreciate that. So that being said, I'd like to go ahead and get things started with staff. Any announcements this evening?
Yes, sir. I would like to announce or make a statement regarding the email address that we have for you all, if you're comfortable with that, sir, Chairman.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So there is an email address that the Planning Commission has, and yes, the Planning Commissioners have access to receiving that email. However, they are not allowed to respond to those emails due to the quorum requirements. Any item that's on an agenda has to have all council members present to have, Planning Commissioners present to have a response given. So they're able to be present and have conversations when it's in person, but for email, they're not always confirmed to be in person or present. So they're not allowed to answer to those emails. So that is one of the reasons they're not responding. It's not because they're ignoring you. It is because they're unable to answer it because of the quorum rules and laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any presentations? I see we have none. Before I ask, any agenda changes?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay. Approval of minutes. So everyone has had an opportunity to take a look at the minutes from the February 23rd, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. Any omissions or corrections? No? Okay.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the Planning Commission meeting from February 23rd, 2026.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted from February 23rd, 2026, and a second. Any other discussion? No? Okay. That being said, all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted from the February 23rd, 2026 Planning Commission signify by saying aye. Aye. Minutes approved as submitted.
Sorry. Can you keep that for me?
Okay, old agenda items, I see none. So we're going to go ahead and move right into the new agenda items. So we have a landscape plan for Mija Construction, 407 Dividend Drive, and I will turn that over to staff.
So this proposal is for the office expansion. As you said, 407 Dividend Drive. The Mija Construction has submitted a landscape plan, which we will look at tonight. So briefly, this is the zoning map. Property is located here on Dividend Drive near, I can't read that from here. Anyway, Zone GI General Industrial. So here is the plan, and based on the amount of impervious surface area on the property is 99,273 square feet. And based on that, the ordinance requires a minimum of 298 caliper inches of canopy trees and 199 caliper inches of understory trees. Section 1110E of the Land Development Ordinance permits a reduction of up to 25% of the tree requirement for developments that designate and maintain tree-safe areas. These tree-safe areas are required to be identified on the final site plan, and they must be protected with a tree-safe barrier during construction. So this development has designated this area right here in the front corner as a tree save area. The amount was 3,638 square feet, which you'll see, you saw the calculations in your packet, would amount to a 2% reduction. So with that in mind, the new total for the requirements are 292 caliper inches of canopy trees. That came out to 6 inches less, and then a reduction of 4 inches for the understory trees, so the new requirement is 195. No alternative compliance method is required because the proposal is for 294 canopy inches and 196 understory inches. As part of the requirements, some of the requirements of the landscape ordinance, planting areas shall be located in front and on the sides of all, where practical, of all retail, commercial, industrial buildings. And here they have proposed a planting bed all across the front of the building, and it wraps here around the side. And then here's a little bonus area back here where they've added some plants on the side. In addition, the perimeter of all parking lots shall be landscaped with evergreen shrubs for screening of cars and headlights. Those shrubs should be a minimum of 24 inches in height at the time of planting. And the applicant is proposing, a combination of 3 evergreen shrubs along the edge of the parking lot here. Finally, all parking islands shall be 100% landscaped with canopy trees, understory trees, evergreen shrubs, and or ground cover in mulched beds. So it's a fairly small parking lot. Of course, we only have a couple of islands here, and they are all, the proposal is for elms, crepe myrtles, and evergreen shrubs, as well as some ground covers in all of those islands. Finally, just a note of the total number of trees provided, 80% are native to the eastern United States and or the southeastern United States. The plan is color-coded as I usually like to prepare for you. This is the list of both canopy and understory trees, and the colors coordinate to their locations on the plan.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Is the applicant or applicant representative here this evening? Good, please step up to the microphone and give your name and who you represent.
Yes, I'm Matt Moore, and I'm representing Media Construction today.
Great, thank you, Matt. Do you have anything to add to staff's presentation?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to cover comments, and then we'll do, questions and then comments. We'll go ahead and start to my right.
No real comments other than saying I'm very pleased with the work that you put into the landscape plan. Thank you.
Commissioner Allen, any questions?
I don't have
Staff?
anything to add.
Okay. Commissioner Kriz, any questions, staff or applicant?
Just for the applicant, are you opposed to the staff recommendation to move that tree placement
Oh.
near the monument sign?
I'm sorry, I did forget that.
Yeah.
The city engineer has recommended the following condition, that proposed tree placement near the monument sign, it looks like it may block the drainage ditch, which I did put on here. See this blue arrow right here? This is sort of drainage between pipes, and these 2 trees, it is recommended that they be moved forward of the ditch.
The existing sign is just some 4x4 posts with like a wood sign that just says 407 on it. It is our intention to apply for a monument sign permit once construction is completed, so we can relocate that sign.
No, I think
out of that.
I think it's the trees that they want you to relocate.
Oh, okay.
These two trees right here that are sort of in this drainage ditch area.
Yeah, I think they do
They can
need to
be
shift
shifted
over.
forward.
Yeah, and that's not a problem. It is tight, it is full with trees.
Well,
there,
either
so-
forward or back, whichever.
Yeah, we just
you
need
have
to stay
room
out of
for
the
it.
right of way, but I believe we have
Yes.
enough room to get it out of that small drainage ditch.
Okay,
No
perfect.
problems there.
Commissioner, any questions?
No comments.
Okay. Commissioner Hamner?
All right. First of all, thank you so much for putting this together for us. SAF was noting about 80% is native. Would you guys be open to exploring for the other 20%, finding additional plants that can replace the non-natives with something really comparable that would be native to Peachtree City?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. I wouldn't want to delay
Sure.
approval if that was something we can come to an agreement on. We would like to get the landscaping work started within the next few weeks.
Sure.
But yeah, we're definitely open to looking into that.
Sure, yeah. So just to give you a couple of suggestions. So for the trees, the crepe myrtles could be a fringe tree or an American snowball. Those are pretty comparable, as I understand it. The lacebark elm could be an American elm or a hackberry. For the shrubs, the vintage jade testilium could be a Virginia sweet spire. The dwarf, I'm going to totally butcher this, Pittosporum could be a small, yeah, somebody got it out there, could be a small Anzi shrub. And then the ground covers, the big blue lily trough could be a Pennsylvania sedge. And also the Cassian fountain grass could be a, there's already in the plan, and again, I'm sorry, I'm going to totally butcher this. The pink muley grass could be something to explore as well. So again, these are things that may be really comparable to what you have, and again, some of these are already in the plan as well
Okay.
to explore.
Yeah. Is that information in the ordinances?
It's not, but
Okay.
again, happy to provide it.
Okay. Probably reach out to Laura or you guys for maybe a recap on some of those
Sure,
items you listed.
yeah, happy to do it.
So just to confirm, the 80% is of just the trees, the tree species.
Okay,
I didn't look through shrubs.
okay. Yeah, there may be some others, again, that
Okay.
are not necessarily native to explore.
Yeah, we don't really have anything particular that's holding us up. We just want to get it approved and make it look good.
Understood.
Okay. Commissioner Hamner, I'm going to go ahead and any comments from your questions? Anything else?
No.
No. Commissioner Halverson, any comments?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Chris?
No, looks good. Thanks for the hard work with it. Thanks for being open to moving those 2 trees and for considering the native. Other than that, looks great.
Commissioner Allen, comments? Commissioner Gant?
No other
Anything?
comments.
Okay. No, and I echo the other commissioners. You know, it's nice to see nice landscape designs, especially for commercial properties. You know, adding color, adding different plants, different varieties in there is always important to do. And you know, it is a suggestion to go ahead and do the native if you're able to go ahead and do it. But yeah, the last thing we want to do, of course, is hold up you moving forward, especially, you know, when we're getting in the planning season at this point. But if you could please, you know, work with staff to see if there are any alternatives, we would definitely appreciate it.
Will do.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so do we have a motion from the dais, from the commissioners?
Sure. I move to approve the landscape plan for immediate construction at 407 Dividend Drive with the condition provided by staff to move the trees near the existing monument sign so they do not block the drainage ditch, and to consider the use of additional native plant species.
Okay,
Second.
so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor of approving the landscape plan for 407 Dividend Drive with the 2 conditions, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Landscape plan for 407 Dividend Drive approved with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to thank Laura for her help through this process.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
All right, we have another landscape plan for you. This one is for the new industrial construction on Necco Way for SWI Machinery. Again, here's the location map. They are zone GI General Industrial, but they're also in the Airport Overlay District, and this is the property right here. Across from the new Gersheimer site is over here, just to kind of give you some bearings. This International Drive right here, out here, TDK, dividend. All right, moving on. So this property has an impervious surface area of 78,615 square feet, which would require 236 inches of canopy trees and 157 inches of understory trees. Referring you again to that section in the land development ordinance that permits a reduction of up to 25% of the tree requirement for developments that designate tree save areas. This, they put all of this on one plan and sort of block part of the property, but all of this area back here was preserved as a tree save area on this property. And that amounts to 55,332 square feet. So that calculation ends up being 21% of a reduction. And that reduction would reduce the canopy inch requirement to 186 inches and the understory to 124 inches. And the proposal is for just that, 186 and 124. Therefore, no alternative compliance method is being requested. Again, some of the additional requirements is the parking area on the sides and front as where it's possible. And again, this is all planting area around the front sort of office portion of this building. The perimeter, this is a very small parking lot right here. This is it. And while they do have several trees and whatnot out here by the road, and then a detention pond between the road and the parking area, they do have a row of shrubs along the front of the parking area there. There are no parking islands really here except these little end caps, and they will be trees in mulched beds. Now again, this is of the total number of trees provided. I found that 50% were native to the eastern United States and or the southeastern United States. For this project, staff has no recommendations should you decide to approve the plan.
Great, thank you. Is the applicant or representative of the applicant here this evening? Great. Please come up to the microphone, name and who you represent.
Good evening, Jason Walls, Highland Land Planning, representing SDBI.
Great, thank you, Jason. Anything
thank
to
you.
add?
No, Laura did a great job. Just I will add that we will work with staff as we have on the past several landscape plans to modify non-native plant and shrub species. So we'll work with staff during construction on that.
Great, thank you. Okay, since we're already on that subject, I'm going to go ahead and start with Commissioner Hamner. Do you have any questions of staff and the applicant?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Halverson, any questions?
Appreciate the preemptive comment.
Same.
Commissioner Kriz?
Yeah, no questions.
Commissioner Allen?
No questions.
Commissioner Gant?
No question.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start back with you. Any comments?
No, I'll just commend the developer. Nice job. Thank you.
Commissioner Allen?
Nice pre-planning.
Commissioner Kriz?
Yeah, I'd love to see the big tree save area. It's a really nice addition to this property. So, yeah, looks great.
Commissioner Halverson?
Good.
Okay. Commissioner Hamner?
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
And again, thank you for we've worked together, and you've worked together with staff over, like you said, the last several projects to go ahead and take care of where we can and can't put some native species. I just would ask Commissioner Hamner if you could please provide those suggestions to staff for both of these, so they can go ahead and get those in the record and then be able to provide those to the developers. That would be great.
Sounds good.
Okay. So do we have a motion from the commissioners?
I'll make a motion to approve the landscape plan for SWI Machinery, 400 NACO Way.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for approval. Any other questions, comments from the commissioners? No. Okay, all those in favor of approving the landscape plan 400 NACO Way, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, landscape plan approved for 400 NACO Way. Thank you very much. Okay, our third item this evening under new agenda is the concept plat, Bradshaw Estates, 201 Sumner Road. And gonna turn that over to staff.
All right, I know everyone is familiar with this, and we have a similar presentation as the workshop, but there have been some changes in the plan. Again, this is the zoning map. It is zoned R43. A little bit of a context map shows a little bit more versus just all of the zoning overlay. Sumner Road is down here. And then that Sims Road connection, I believe, is right here, and Astoria Lane, if that gives you a better visual of the location. This is the overall plan. We have some enlargements in just a second. So, of course, there was a workshop held here at the Planning Commission meeting on January 26th. And in response to some of the workshop comments, the applicant has submitted a revised plat. The revised plan is very similar to the original proposal, but it does now include a connection road between the northern and southern portions, whereas before this was just a golf cart connection. It's a full-blown road connection across the creek. In doing so, the number of lots was reduced from 59 to 58 to make room for that. Just to reiterate, again, the property is owned R43, front setbacks 50, side 15, rear 30 for those lots. There's a minimum of 1 acre for the lots and a minimum floor area per dwelling unit of 1,500 square feet. We'll just, to point something, we'll go here to the northern section. The developer has shown 2 boxes of a 2,000 square foot footprint, showing how it will fit on the property as required for the minimum size. Let's see. So multi-use paths as far as development standards. Planning Commission shall require multi-use paths in order to facilitate pedestrian golf cart access from residential and commercial developments to schools, parks, playgrounds, other amenities. And the developer has agreed to coordinate with the city engineering department to determine the best location for a path to continue southward on Sumner Road to tie into the existing path system. And that is, I'll reiterate later, that is a recommended condition should you decide to approve the plat. Let's see, parks and open space. They're required to provide at least 3 acres of open space per 100 dwelling units, and doing the math, for 58 lots, that is 174 acres of open space. The developer has provided 2.43. Now that's not, I noticed you probably saw all the green belts marked. That is not counted towards these open spaces. Rather, there are areas such as this here, this one here. Let's see. There may be some others. Anyway, 2.43. I know there was some concern about buffers before, and I'll just state that the land development ordinance does require special screening of commercial developments and multifamily subdivisions on sites that abut streets or single-family residential subdivisions. But since this is a plat for a single-family subdivision, the special screening is not required where it abuts other single-family developments. However, as before, there is still a 50-foot buffer included here between the road and the adjacent subdivision. Let's see, as you As you probably recall from before, the Peachtree City Police and Fire Department had expressed some concerns about extended response times already to the rear portion of Kedron Hills and Astoria Lane. They felt, of course, the additional roadway infrastructure for the new development would further increase these response times, and they had made the suggestion of including the connecting roadway between the northern and southern portions, which has been included. And just pointing out in your packet, we had received several more comments regarding the project since the workshop on January 26th, and all those were included in your packet, except one that was forgotten, and I updated the packet for you and reissued that, and we also brought you a copy of that this evening. Staff has reviewed the plat and feels that it meets the zoning ordinance and development standards. And should you decide to approve the plat, the following recommendation, it's fairly wordy there, but does show on your report regarding the path connection. Let's see, the developer shall coordinate with city engineer to determine the best location for the path. Path shall be located in a 50-foot greenbelt to be dedicated to the city for future maintenance of the path. And that, yeah, so there you have it.
Okay, thank you, staff. Do we have the applicant or applicant representative here with us this evening? You please state your name and who you represent.
Rick Lindsay, here to represent Chadwick Homes. First of all, good evening. Good to see you guys. As Laura said, this is a concept plat approval. It's not a rezoning. This property was rezoned to R43, I think about 2 decades ago. The surrounding properties also in Peachtree City are R43 or R22. The property that's in the unincorporated counties of similar size. I don't know the zoning designation, but it's very similar to the size of the lots that are in this subdivision. The plan does call for a phase 1 and phase 2 development. Each of the 2 phases will have 29 homes for a total of 58. The concept plan before you meets or exceeds all of the requirements of both the zoning ordinance and of the land development ordinance. Staff has recommended approval with the one condition that Laura talked about, and my client has agreed to that, so the multi-use path connection will be made on the southern end, getting it connected to the existing path that's down there. That should improve some of the issues that I think currently exist on Sumner Road. Now, as Laura has stated, everyone knows in the room, there have been several emails that have been sent to the Planning Commission. And in looking at those emails, most of the concerns come down to traffic, to buffers, to safety, stormwater runoff, and tree clearing and grading. So I'd like to address each one of those. For traffic, the road connection between phase 1 and phase 2 was made or requested by the police department and the fire department, and we have made that connection per their request. That should improve the safety not only for this development, but also for Astoria Lane and for the back end of Kedron Hills, to provide more points of access for emergency vehicles to get to the area. The speed limit through this development, because it's a residential street, will either be 25 miles per hour or 30 miles per hour. Concerns about maybe using this as a cut-through. If you'll notice, there are several intersections. Several stop signs will be placed in the subdivision, which should deter some of the cut-through in this area. But again, it's going to be very slow miles per hour going through there. This is not a neighborhood connector, so folks will not be able to fly through it, and there are many driveways obviously that will be along all the roadways in this subdivision. So for traffic, I believe we've addressed really what the issues would be. Again, it's going to be slow in there with many intersections. The cut through or the connection that will serve between phase 1 and phase 2 was put in at the request of the city. Now, for buffers, as Laura said, they're not required in this area where R43 abuts to R43, R22. However, the developer has put in a 50-foot buffer along the southern end of the road that's going to connect with Sumner Road, so that no homes will back up to those on Ashley Way, and Ashley Way will also enjoy an additional 50 feet of no development in there between the back property lines that it has with this property up until the road. Again, toward, you go up a little bit ways, there was concern about road being opened up for a backyard with a swimming pool. That property actually backs up to a greenbelt area along with the 50-foot buffer. So it's going to be quite a distance between road with traffic going by it and that particular property. And additionally, the developer is not going to clear cut this subdivision. They will clear and grade for the roads. And as the lots sell, as they develop, then they'll clear for the residents. And unless there's a pool requested or some additional accessory use, the backyards probably won't be cleared at all. So there's still going to be plenty of buffers and screen landscape areas, the natural areas that are already there. You don't see a lot of change in the back of these properties. These are 1 acre lots. They're not small. They're not half acre lots. So there should be plenty of room for the property to be left. Chadwick Homes has developed many of the subdivisions in Peachtree City, and I think the work that they've done speaks for itself. It's going to be a quality subdivision, and one, when it's finished, will fit in very nicely here in this area. There are also a couple of stream buffers, or streams that go through here and have the city buffers and the state water buffers. So there's going to be plenty of space that's going to be left natural in the subdivision. And I know one of them is in green. I think the other one, Joan, is not, Laura, is not colored in, but there, thank you. And for safety, developing this area should help with safety in the area. Right now, it's all wooded. I know there have been some complaints of maybe younger folks back in there and who else could be back in there. But when you develop high-end 1 acre lots, single family in the area, it's going to cut down or eliminate a lot of that usage back in the property. And again, the speed limits that will be throughout the subdivision, slow enough that it should prevent any traffic concerns with children playing in the yard. Again, it's 25 miles an hour. We all know there are road drivers out there, but that's why we have a police department to stop that. But the legal speed limit is going to be 25 or 30 miles per hour. In addition, the police department and the fire department have requested that connection to improve the response times, not only here in this subdivision, but also, again, as I stated, in Kedron Hills and the Astoria Lane. Stormwater. A lot of emails talked about current problems that exist on the properties that are already developed. The roads should correct that problem because everything's going to be curbed and guttered. So along the southern end, where you get towards Sumner Road, the only runoff that's going to make it to those Ashley Way homes will be that's in the 50-foot buffer that they requested. Everything else is going to be piped to the detention ponds and eventually released into the creeks. There will be quality improvement in the drainage or the retention ponds, so it'll be much more controlled than it is now. Everyone should see improvements when the roads and the stormwater system is put into place. The creeks that go through will be protected. There are city ordinances and there are state laws that require that, and the developer is going to adhere, obviously, to all of those laws to prevent any degradement of the waters in the creeks. Again, tree saving. As I stated earlier, this is not going to be clear cut. It's not going to be a inexpensive subdivision where you oftentimes see them go in and clean everything out and then put in 1 or 2 little small trees. No. What's going to happen here, the right-of-way, the roads will be graded, and that'll be cleared. But then the individual lots will not be cleared until such time as they're being developed, and they're only be cleared to the extent necessary. So in summation, the plan that is before you meets or exceeds all city ordinances. It's been recommended by staff for approval with the one condition that my client has agreed to. We made the change for the police department and the fire department to connect with the road, phase 1 and phase 2. So for all these reasons, we request approval of the concept plat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. Okay, commissioners, we're going to go ahead and do questions first, and then we'll do comments. I'm going to go ahead and start to my left. Commissioner Kriz, any questions?
Yeah, I have a few questions. First, for staff, there were a number of emails we received from the public, thank you, by the way, for sending those, that mentioned a gate. Has that been discussed with the city attorney, or what is the feasibility of placing a gate in the subdivision like this?
So we've met with the developers who share that it would be, I guess it was suggested that a gate would be added to that road. We gave them the option of adding that or not. That is not something that we have the ability to require based on our codes, but we gave them the option to include a gate.
Could we get clarification? Gate at what location?
On the
The
new
center.
section of road that was added, I think is where.
Seams.
Over the stream.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's where it was contemplated. The city has allowed gates in the past, is that correct?
We have allowed for additional, there's a new subdivision, well, not new subdivision, a new gate at a subdivision that has had a recent installation of a gate. So yes, it has been allowed in the past.
How was that done? Did the city have to convey land to the homeowners association?
Yeah, so I'm John Schnick, City Engineering Department. So yes, the land was conveyed to the homeowners association, the right-of-way for a portion, and the HOA paid for the installation of the gate and maintains the gate and the roadway through that portion.
Thank you. And now for the applicant, I think in the last meeting we had discussed that the property is one of the largest last plats here in Peachtree City, and we requested to see the third phase. Is that still something that is being considered?
It is not, and the reason is my client doesn't own it. It's still owned by the Bradshaw family. So it can't be planned at this point until there is a conveyance of the property, which is not being discussed at this time.
But there was a drawing made in the past of the proposed site plan in case land was to be conveyed. That was my understanding.
There may have been some concept plan when it was rezoned many, many years ago, but there's been, to my knowledge, no concept plat that's come before Planning Commission for what would be phase 3.
So your client owns phase 1 and phase 2.
Has a contract on it. Doesn't
It's
own
not currently.
Correct.
Okay. So they don't own phase 1 and phase 2, and they also don't own phase 3.
But they have a contract on phase 1 and 2. Once it gets approved, then it closes.
Okay.
But they don't have anything on phase 3.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Maybe staff or the applicant, can you highlight where the 2.43 acres of open space are on the proposed plat?
I believe, and the applicant can confirm, I believe it's these two put together equal that. Is that correct?
Off the bottom of the cul-de-sac, first cul-de-sac. Right there, that's our spot. There, all the way down to there, yep.
Plus here.
Oh, so can I draw here? So it's this here? Pl-
That's in floodplain already.
No, okay, so it's not that. It's,
The piece between the floodplain and cul-de-sac, that,
Oh,
and the opposite side.
okay. So the piece, so this, hey, can you clear that for me,
I
please?
think it's right
Thank you.
here.
Okay, so Laura, do you want
I believe he's talking about this right here.
that little piece?
Yeah.
Okay, and plus you said, what was the second part?
Either side of the entrance.
Okay, so this little piece at the end of that cul-de-sac and either side of the entrance. Okay, fair enough.
Just a clarification, you also have Greenbelt number 9, is that correct? Is that part of the calculation? Greenbelt 9 is all the way at the top of the property by lot 30? Does it? Okay.
Great.
Obviously, if the detention ponds take up 3/4 of the space, we'll have the 1/4 of the space available.
And then, just some further questions. I didn't notice the last time this came before us in the workshop that between lots 43 and 44, there is a greenbelt number 10 that looks like it leaves some space between those lots. Why are we leaving that space, just out of curiosity there? Is that for a potential future multi-use path?
Could you repeat that again? Sorry.
So between lots 43 and 44, there's a little space with greenbelt number 10 that looks like it's left in between. If you want to clear that.
Throw the U out.
Yeah. See that space in between those two lots? Is that for the potential?
Access to a detention pond.
Okay, so it's access to
I think we have to give 20 feet access and an easement and all that.
okay. And so, a question for staff: do all of these green belts get conveyed to the city? Is that how that works?
No, the only thing conveyed to the city is, there's I believe it's 25-foot buffer along Sumner/Smoke Rise Point that'll be conveyed to the city.
And in addition, any greenbelt areas that are developed as stormwater ponds, stormwater quality features will be conveyed to the city. For residential developments, the city takes over any stormwater treatment once it's completed.
Okay. And so if something is provided to the city for stormwater, we don't typically put multi-use paths, or could we put multi-use paths on those pieces of land?
Not typically, but as he's pointing out there, the city does require access to that parcel, so if it's tucked behind a residential, they have to leave an opening and deed that to the city as access to the pond.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Chris. Commissioner Halverson?
I heard your presentation. It was very well put together, so thank you for that. The concerns I have with the plat and what you're saying and what you're showing are two different things. When you're talking about, and specifically, the third phase, and there is no implication for a third phase, but what is designed is for a third phase. In other words, if you weren't going to do it, you wouldn't do this, and this would have basically a complete design for phase 1 and phase 2. So because you're not showing that, that clearly shows there's a phase 3, which we have concerns about because the population density and the traffic implications that we aren't aware of, we can't, again, like we said last time, it's difficult for us to kind of look at the entire design when we don't have it. So if you're not going to do phase 3, then you should design phase 1 and phase 2 with that intent. The other comments you were talking about, traffic buffers, safety, stormwater. When you're talking about traffic, you were specifically addressing the traffic within this neighborhood. You did not address the traffic outside of the neighborhood, which I have concerns about, which is why we asked about specifically for a traffic study to show what the implications of this development would be on Sumner Road, that intersection, and everything else. So you haven't addressed that. Absolutely. Yep.
John, you all were here. It's not in the minute.
I don't recall that.
And during the past year, we've been through, it's 60 lots. It doesn't direct.
Okay, I'll refresh your memory. Remember when we were talking about the traffic study and then we were talking about that intersection, about the right way in or right way out, and then whether there was going to be a light there or not?
Right in, right out?
Correct.
That's
Down
a
at the
full-
bottom.
No, it's a full service intersection, sorry.
We were also talking about the implication where this extended up to 54. There was a whole discussion that we had about the implication of traffic down in here, what was going on in here, this development over here.
I mean, I remember some discussion about it. I do not recall the request for a traffic study.
Okay. Laura, do you remember that at all?
I don't.
You could always request one.
Well, if there was confusion, I apologize for that, but I do think that a traffic study that I thought we discussed and I thought we requested in addition to the phase 3 sketch would be important for us to understand for 58 homes plus and its implication to the connection road if there isn't a gate on the Kedron Hills neighborhood. Because if there isn't a gate for Kedron Hills, it's Astoria Lane, right? Is that the name of the street? Okay. That part of the neighborhood, you have to take into account if there are going to be additional traffic from that neighborhood through this neighborhood down to Sumner Road. So there's a cascading effect relative to traffic, whether it's mitigated to 25 or 30 miles an hour. You're going to have 6, 7, 8 cars stopped at the stop sign waiting to get through their neighborhood because it's going to save them 20 minutes instead of driving all the way around to get to high school. Plus you're going to have, I don't know, let's just guess, 100 golf carts coming through this neighborhood?
Yeah, I don't know this. The only thing I would say about the connectivity is if there's already cut through traffic on, I think it's, I forget the name of the road, but it's long over to Ashley and another one that I read in the emails. This provides a third route. So that's going to diversify the traffic between the two already trails where people are already cutting through from, basically it's Kedron Hills coming this direction. So now we're providing a third route. So it kind of splits that traffic up between
Okay.
3 routes.
If that's the case, and I'm not aware of that, if you could demonstrate that to us to support your argument. I'm personally concerned about the traffic. I'm personally concerned about what it's going to do to Kedron Hills. I don't live there, but I can see how that could be a negative impact to the residents. I do understand and cannot disagree with the fact of the statement of, you know, it meets and exceeds all ordinances. It's interesting. I was going to ask you, because everything sounded perfect, was there anything negative you would say about this development?
No, and I would address that many of your questions and concerns would have been brought up 20 years ago when it was rezoned. For Phase 3, we don't have the right to develop Phase 3. Yes, is it where you stubbed out where additional roads and houses can go in there? Yes, but Mr. Bradshaw can sell this to somebody else, not to my client. So it's prepared as, when I was city attorney, Jim Williams was here in the planner. He always wanted to have connectivity and have options for future growth so that you didn't shove everybody down to the major roads. And I'm looking at the map here, the plan, the site plan. Much of what will become the Phase 3 is wetland and is got the creek. You're not going to get that many more lots in there. I mean, I'm not a developer. I don't venture to guess, but just looking at the map, there's not going to be much to get in there, and then there's like the little corner, very expensive to get down to that area crossing a creek. So again, looking at the ordinances, zoning and land development, this plan exceeds those. We've addressed many of the concerns that were expressed by the residents in emails and discussed in the work session. This property, like I said, has been zoned for so many years. The time was right to develop it. We're trying to address the concerns. We hear you. We've heard before. The gate is in the purview of the city council only. So if the city council wants it, they can require it, but that's an issue for another body.
So Rick, am I hearing you correctly that you wouldn't consider putting a gate in at all unless it was demanded by the council?
I think my client doesn't care one way or another, but looking at the emails, You got some of the folks who wrote who are very much in favor of having the connection and other ways to get out of, I guess, Astoria Lane and Kedron, backside of Kedron Hills over to 54, and others who are opposed to it. But the problem is, the only gate that I know of on a city street in Peachtree City is in Plantera. There may be another one that
Well,
I'm
And
unaware.
that's where I was thinking, we put that in because it was a shortcut.
Right, but the
before.
difference there, at least at the present time and in the past 20 years, is that you have the industrial park right there that has an entrance into Plantera. And I'm not going to venture to guess, but probably well over 1,000, maybe 2,000 employees, maybe more than that, get off of work all about the same time and are trying to get largely to Coweta County, some over to Spalding, but to Coweta County, so you got all that traffic that is going through wonderful 5474, and so the cut through was Plantera, and then they had the folks racing, they've done the speed calming devices, all that we all know about. But here, you don't have a big commercial area around. You have pretty much Peachtree City built out, so the folks who are inclined probably to cut through here for large part are going to be the folks, I think, in Astoria Lane, if I'm saying that correctly, and the northern part of Kedron Hills, probably coming south to go to 54. But again, if you look at the jagged way you have to go, you got several stops you got to make, turns you got to make, and the speed limit, which I believe will be dictated by the police department, is either going to be 25 or 30. It's not going to be any higher than 30 because it's a residential street.
But you know as well as I do that the speed bumps, the stop signs, and the speed limit in Plantera did nothing to control traffic or their speeds or being careful drivers. It was a hazard, which is why Plantera chose to purchase their own gate and take ownership of the roads just to make it a safer neighborhood.
Right, I agree with that, but most of the cars, I would venture to guess, that cut through Plantera or did cut through Plantera are non-residents of Peachtree City, folks that are coming to work and then leaving, going to one of the neighboring counties. Here, looking at where this property is located, most of the folks who will cut through, I will venture to guess, will be northern Kedron Hills and Astoria Lane. They're neighbors of this. They're people who live there, people who see them every day and go, wait a minute, you're going too fast in my neighborhood. I remember many years ago having to go to a neighbor's house and say, look, I adore your sons, but not when they're driving 50 miles an hour down the road. And this was in Crescent Oak. And, mom and pop talked to their sons and stopped it.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back. I appreciate that, Commissioner. Go back, Commissioner Halverson. Did you have any other questions?
Yeah, I found the meeting minutes, page 15, dated 2/9/2026. Halverson, after they had done a traffic study, and Wall said they had not, but could add the information. The number of daily trips added should be minimal. Rittenauer asked if there was a stoplight in front of the new development on SR 54, and Walt said there would be a modified R cut, which is what we just talked about. Sumner Road at 54 would be one more area. Rittenauer remarked where traffic light might be a concern. Kritz asked if he was especially interested in the possible connection to the path to the top of Lake Kedron, where Flat Creek came out to the northeast. He thought that the connection in Phase 3 would be significant. Wall said the topography in the area was difficult, blah, blah, blah. So it is in the meeting minutes.
So appreciate that, and I think that we should have made that as a stipulation as a condition. But again, we were in a workshop more
Right.
so it was more open discussion. But yeah, I remember we discussed that, as well as, we touched on, the mixed use development that's going to be going in along 54 also, and what
Right.
impact that might have between the two.
Can
Mr. Walls,
let me
absolutely.
say this. We do have I apologize. We have a traffic study on file for the commercial development about that intersection, which includes this R43. It's not for this project, it's for the commercial project, but it did include density around us. My apologies. It's on file for 1941. It's a GDOT study. John, we had it to do the modified R cut there. but that addresses down there at Highway 54 and Sumner Road and all that, not up here, other than the volume from up here. The volume of traffic from up here is adjusted in those comments. So everything that you're asking about to GDOT road, so we have the GDOT study for them, which we can provide. It's on file in that project file. My apologies.
thank you.
I thought we were talking about here on Sumner Road and the new road.
Well, I think just to be clear, I'm interested in the impact of this new, what you're proposing, plan
On 54.
on the surrounding roads.
Okay, I apologize. We have that. I'll send that over to you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Alverson, anything? Commissioner Hamner, questions?
So just one question, and Mr. Lindsay, you kind of touched on something I've been thinking about a lot regarding this property, which is the history around it. And you may not be able to answer all these questions, but you've at least mentioned more details about it than what I've heard and been able to find about the actual history of this area and the zoning associated with it. Because I think so many of the problems that we're ultimately dealing with today are related to the way that this property was zoned. However, you said 20 years ago. You may not be able to expand on what you said earlier on this, but I just wanted to see if you knew of any other history around this and the way how this was zoned, or any additional details around that.
I don't have any more history on the way it was zoned. When I was city attorney, many, many years ago, the council discussed having a major road go through this so that it would take traffic from Robinson up through this area of the city and then connect into Crabapple and take it out Dogwood. So that was back probably 98, 99, something like that. There was a lot of discussion about doing that to provide 3 north-south avenues from Peachtree City to get them folks headed toward the airport or downtown or where folks might work. But as far as the zoning here, I think it was zoned in the early 2000s, but it was R43, and when they did kind of the full blanket zoning for Kedron Hills, and I'm not talking about just Kedron Hills subdivision, I'm talking about the whole village. I know this area was included in there. Originally, what's really interesting, if you go back to the original plans of Peachtree City, all of the North Parkway was supposed to be condos and apartments, none of what you see on the ground today. So I always find it interesting when people talk about the original plan. The original plan for Peachtree City was like 70,000 people. When I was city attorney, they brought it way down, and when the village the concept was zoned, it was for these much larger lots. And I know that this was discussed, but I don't recall the rezoning of this, and it may have happened after I was no longer a city attorney.
Yeah, that's fair. It's 20 plus years ago at this point.
I inherited them, but not as long as yours.
Well, maybe one day you'll get it back. Who knows? I don't have any additional questions. Thank you for that.
Okay. I think a lot of my questions that I had were already asked by the commissioners. Going to go ahead now and open it up for comments. Commissioner Allen,
Okay.
comments?
Yeah. So, you've got extensive experience in this city. I've known you for a while. I mean, I know you know what you're talking about. I had experience as a police officer, and I'm reminded of a time when I was told to go to this really nice neighborhood where the speed limit was 35 and cars were doing 70. The mayor's wife called up, said she wanted something done, and we were sent out there to do traffic. The very first car coming around that turn doing 70 was the mayor's wife. I was taken off of that after I gave her a ticket. This is a shortcut. And having experience as a police officer, shortcuts, people tend to, whether it's their neighborhood or they're trying to get to a county, 15 miles away, when they're ready to go home, they're less careful than when they're not any more careful than they are on 54 or 74. And I'm concerned that this being a shortcut is going to be a hazard, not only for this neighborhood, but for the ones on either side, just in the amount of traffic that will come through there. We had discussed putting a gate over the river, over the creek. There's also been discussions about putting it up there at the north end. I would recommend that once put in there for the safety of the children that we've spoken about, for the safety of the residents. I don't think the speed bumps, the stop signs, or the turns are gonna slow people down that aren't from that neighborhood. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Gant, comments?
Sure, just a couple of comments and maybe a question. You know, in looking at this plat, it's now phase 1 and phase 2. And then you look at the additional property that is also zoned R43. You look at probably at another future, I'd say minimum 25 to 35 additional lots that could come out of that development that would connect to this neighborhood. So you're looking at the potential of, 85, 90 homes. That's a lot of traffic. I'm concerned about the connection to Astoria Lane through Sims Road, or the abutment there. When you look at Astoria Lane and how it ties into the other developments going over towards Kedron Hills and Smoke Rise, there's a lot of density up there already that's going in the other direction. And if you were to open up this lane onto this development, you would have some bleeding over from that area, but I'm not sure how much it would be. But there would be some. And there would be some in the other direction as well. My main concern in looking at this overall development is safety from a traffic standpoint, safety from a fire standpoint, police standpoint, and also the children that are in the neighborhood. And I'm inclined to recommend, or would recommend, not even having a connection up at Astoria Lane, and to have a plan that moves all this traffic south toward 54. So I guess one question I have for the developer is, what are you looking at in terms of timing for the phasing of phase 1 and phase 2? When would that occur?
Potentially 3 years.
3 years?
Yes.
Starting from the time that this is approved?
Yes.
Okay. I would just highly recommend to this group to really consider how to not allow that traffic to go between the Astoria Lane and this development.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Chris, comments?
Yeah, you know, I really have no problem with this neighborhood generally. I think it looks nice. I think it fits with the mold of what's around it. I think where my concerns are twofold majorly. I think the traffic concerns from my standpoint could probably be addressed by city council with a potential gate and deeding over some land to the future HOA. So I don't necessarily share that same general concern, but my concerns are twofold. You know, like I said earlier, this is one of the last large plats that we can influence here in Peachtree City. And so, you know, one of the things, I live in the Kedron neighborhood. One of the things to me that makes Peachtree City pretty special is I don't have to drive more than like a half a block or a block to get to a multi-use path. And when you look at the folks that are gonna live like in this cul-de-sac here, or over here, or over here, they gotta go pretty far to get way down to Sumner Road to get to that path connection. You know, and you look at neighborhoods like Pine Gate, you look like neighborhoods on the south side of Peachtree City, where the path was really a major part of the design of the neighborhood. And I think when we are talking about safety, especially when you make a good path system, and you can see that in other parts of Peachtree City, you're alleviating a lot of the road traffic that's there by providing other options to the community, right? So I think there's opportunities here. You know, I'd love to see a path that goes down this way. I'd love to see a path that goes down this way. I think there's a ton of opportunity. And the fact that we don't see that third phase just really is a disadvantage, I think, to the city, especially to that area of the city, because I'd love to see what the potential is for that and how it all ties in together. Yeah, sure, that land may not be sold for another 10, 15, 20 years, but the fact that there's going to be a plan for that land, I think, makes a big difference. Because like I said, this is just one of the last major parts of what we can influence here. So, I'm really not in favor of how this looks right now, even though I do think that, generally speaking, this could fit in that area.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Halverson, comments?
I'm not going to restate all of the other words I said earlier. I think you get the point. The only thing that I would address, the last comment would be, I do have concerns for any residential developer, even though you address clear cutting. Up north, it's done the way you described it, where it's very strategic. I've not seen that done in the south. I'd like to see it done, so if you do that, like you say you're gonna do, if we can get that as a stipulation, when and if this goes forward, that's how they have to move forward with developing the property, is strategic tree removal. I'd like to see that, as you described it. I just haven't seen it done. That's my only comment.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hamner.
All right, real quick for city staff, are you able to bring up the zoning map on the presentation?
I, for some reason, I'm not able to do anything with this right now. There we go.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect, thank you. So real quick, just a couple of things. Just first, I just have to acknowledge that, the amount of communication and the amount of individuals that have come out to voice their concerns and their opinions and their recommendations on this is truly impressive. I think that you guys have, again, it's always good to see people get involved and expressing, things that they may have a concern about and getting involved in the community this way. I can only speak for myself, but I think the other commissioners would agree that, we've received a lot of communication on this and a lot of input from the public, more than I can remember recently on this. So thank you guys for, of course, engaging us on this and voicing your concerns and letting us know exactly the way how you feel about this, so that way we can take your feedback and try to make this, a better project, but ultimately in a way that doesn't diminish the life and the quality of life that you have in your own neighborhoods right now. I also just want to, acknowledge to the applicant that, you guys have obviously heard a lot of what has been said on this. Again, it's not perfect in terms of addressing everything, and obviously there's still concerns about this, but, credit where credit's due. You guys have, addressed some things like around the creek and, the extra buffers that are associated with this and so on, that, again, is above and beyond what was required for this. And again, I have to acknowledge that, again, this is zoned R43 and it meets all the applicable development standards. And, again, you guys are not doing anything that is against the ordinances that Peachtree City has right now. I requested this back up here, and, I made a comment and asked Mr. Lindsay as well about the history of this. I think so much of what we're talking about tonight is ultimately the fact that this is the way that this was set up 2 decades ago at this point. It's a root problem of this, because you have this around all of this residential right here, and it's hard to get to other areas that, like here's, the highway right here, here's Publix over here, etc. Where again, you have all this residential that is just all together on this. And, how is somebody, for this area, sorry, I'm making a whole bunch of green on this, but I hope this makes sense. Obviously that area right there could be incredibly impacted if, when this area gets developed right here and so on. So I just share this is that, you know, there's again, I believe that we're just stuck with a bit with a problem that was assigned and originated decades ago at this point. And obviously we're trying to make the best use of what's been given to us from all those years ago on that. Again, the applicant, I believe, is, you know, they're following the ordinances on this, and they're justified in doing this. But obviously the concerns from Kedron Hills and all the other spots as well are equally justified, because this is your neighborhood. This is where you live on this. There's not, I don't think, going to be an easy answer for anybody on this. No one's going to be happy ultimately the way that this is going to net out, unfortunately, because, again, there's a root problem that happened decades ago at this point. Again, you know, I think that the applicant, again, is done a reasonably good job in terms of addressing what it can on this, and but again, is it perfect? Absolutely not. There's always going to be concerns associated with this. And sorry, I'm talking a lot.
Oh, that's good.
But I did want to I had 4 thoughts on this. I don't know how reasonable they are on this, but still I think it's something that's worth still mentioning about this, even though I don't know if all these are going to be ultimately realistic on this. The first, you know, for the specifically address the Kedron Hills concerns in a clear and enforceable way. You know, if there's a way that we could have a no certificate of occupancy not to be issued until the connecting road between the north and south phases crossing the creek have been fully constructed, paved, and accepted by the engineer, that could help ensure that the Broadway North homes obviously cannot be occupied while Sims Road remains the only access point. So that could be something that that could allow ultimately some of the development and some of the traffic to be alleviated from that, and ideally help out with Kedron Hills on that. Second, the Sim Road stub off Astoria Lane, you know, if there was an opportunity to be restricted to emergency vehicle access only, secured by a gate system, subject that would be approved by the fire marshal, that could give the fire department a secondary access, and they've asked for an opening up Kedron Hills to general residential, without opening up Kedron Hills to general residential or cut through traffic, could be beneficial for that. Third, all construction traffic for both phases should enter and exit via Sumner Road exclusively, so that way there's no construction vehicles, whether it's concrete trucks, grading equipment, lumber deliveries, etc., are used on Sims Road, Astoria Lane, or Loring Lane. That compliance would ultimately, again, help the Kedron Hills residents on that. And then fourth, you know, before any grading permit is issued, the developer shall submit a construction traffic management plan to the city engineer for review and approval. A plan like that would document access roads, staging areas, required signage, and how the developer will enforce the Sumner Road requirement with the contractors and subcontractors. And again, could set up a way so that way the existing roads could around those areas could ultimately still, you know, be used for residential as opposed to construction on that. Again, I don't know how realistic those 4 things are. Those are just 4 thoughts that I've had recently about this to see what can be done in order to help with the quality of life around that. But that's what I got.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Hamner. Yeah. And before I go with my comments, I'd like to ask staff. So from what I'm hearing with the commissioners, the discussion, the questions, there's definitely some concerns related to this conceptual plat that's in front of us this evening, even after having the workshop and having discussions about that. At this point, what are our options? And I would ask that question so we know where things stand. So, of course, it could be approve. It could be approved with conditions. It could be deny. What other options do we have?
Those are options that you have.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that you've raised some things that may be new to the applicant today, that if you would like to have a response for, you can also ask for there to be a deferral for a decision to allow for them to give you that information, if you would like to have that information present. to better, your decision-making for that application, totally your choice. But definitely the choices that you gave are options.
Okay, and we do have the option to defer. Is that what you said?
Yes, you have an option to defer to the next meeting.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Point of order for you, Chairman.
Yes.
Are we approving and denying or recommending approval and denial to the city council?
No, this item wouldn't go to the city council.
This does not
This
go to
does not
city
go.
council?
No.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, interesting.
Correct, yeah. So I've thought about this kind of long and hard. I do live not in Kedron Hills or in Smoke Rise, but in another neighborhood very, very close to that. And I agree with the other commissioners. We received a lot of comments from the residents in the area. A lot of consistent themes. You look at the residents who do not want access coming into Kedron Hills. You want residents who only want access coming off of Sumner. Traffic, cut-through traffic, loss of trees, erosion, potential flooding. Those are common themes that we see, quite frankly, in any new development that we have come in front of us, no matter when it's been or where it's been. Those are always concerns from people living in the area. There was also some comments as, well, why do we need more homes in Peachtree City? We have too many homes. One of my concerns, was really from the emergency responders also. They're already telling us that they're having difficulty getting to the back section of Kedron Hills. And looking at the way this is set up and with the connection road that is shown, that would give an option and better response time to those first responders coming to that back section of Kedron Hills, which is great. We also talked about in some detail, a gate going in. And I think Commissioner Allen was the one that proposed that with his experience in Planterra. And that's one thing that we don't see on this concept plat, and I understand it needs to possibly go in front of City Council. But I really would have thought that the developer would have at least put that forward, as they would be considerate to do something like that. Again, the original, I think, thinking from us was it would be between phase 1 and phase 2, kind of going across. But the more I looked at this and the more I went over, my recommendation, quite frankly, would be right at the entrance into the development from Sims Road. And it allows then that connectivity with the fire department, the police department, emergency responders to get in and out of that back section of Kedron Hills. But it stops that cut-through traffic, because I agree, if there's an option, somebody's probably going to take it to go ahead and go through there. So I think that would be something that I would really like to see as part of this proposal. And I would also like to note my disappointment on the property owner. We asked, if there was a phase 3. And we were told, well, yes, but it's not part of this. One of the concerns that I have, and I know some of the other commissioners have, is that we tend to see things brought forward to us piecemeal. There's a property here, there's a property there, there's a development here, there's a development there, and we really try to look at things going forward as comprehensive. How many years has those stub outs through Kedron Hills and Smoke Rise been there with no thinking of, well, when is anything going to happen? Nothing may happen with those stub outs in the proposed development for 10 years. Something may happen in a year from now. So really trying to look at this as a comprehensive view of what's happening in this proposed area. One of the things I think going forward, and I don't know what the feasibility is to do something, but I would really like to see that as part of, some of the requirements we have, as we review the UDO, that we do consider a more comprehensive view of developments like this, as well as the traffic. We've always looked at traffic studies as, well, what about this neighborhood, or what about this shopping center? But every one of those traffic studies, they're cumulative and they add up. And while we may look and say, well, one traffic study is okay with this, you add 2 more, 3 more, 4 more, and now you have all of that traffic going in. And I've gone through Smoke Rise out to Publix on 54. You know, there could be quite a bit of traffic at that stoplight. There's no left turn coming out of Publix. There's no left turn coming off of Sumner Road onto 54 heading east. And I would actually like to propose that to city engineer, to staff, to, you know, engage our counterparts at GDOT. You know, you look at the left turn coming off of Walt Banks, going across to the new middle school, no left turn. I've had several instances where I really thought I would see a head-on collision with cars trying to come across and people trying to make left turns to go onto 54. So I think we're really to the point where we're looking at developments along 54 as possible other areas. And I know this is a little beyond this, but it touches on this also, is that I really think we need to go ahead and work with our counterparts at GDOT to try to improve the signaling all through that area, as probably well as other areas in Peachtree City. But I think also we need to remember that this property is, as the other commissioners said, you know, zoned R43 under Peachtree City regulations and ordinances, and a proposed development is permitted in the zoning classification. You know, while we recognize and respect the concerns expressed by the nearby residents, we must also acknowledge the property owner's rights to go ahead and develop that land in accordance with the city ordinances. You know, this is only a conceptual plat. And there's additional changes and modifications that probably will be made as this goes forward. You know, I'm not sure if you're all familiar with how the platting process goes, but there are multiple additional steps that have to happen until the final certificate of basically occupancy is issued. So there's several stage gates along the way where things will be reviewed again and again and again. So some of the concerns about, you know, water runoff, stormwater, so various things will be addressed in much more detail as they go forward. That is not quite shown on the conceptual plat, and I think that's always important for people to understand. But with that in mind, I do have, you know, some conditions that I would definitely look to put on, as Commissioner Hamner brought up kind of his 4 points, as well as some of the other commissioners. You know, for me to really look at this, I want to see a gate, and I know there's some discussion as to, well, do we want to start putting gated communities in Peachtree City? Well, it's really not a gated community. You know, if you look at what was done over Plantera, that kind of started a precedent, and I think we always need to remember that what's decided, whether it's here or in other forums, you know, once something is done, it does set a precedent. And I think this is an area where we could apply that precedent that was used in Plantera to still provide the connectivity, but to keep it just to first responders. Like to see that gate placed at the top of Sims Road as it comes into, I guess that's phase 2 or 1, whichever phase 2 thinks. I think that would be a good location for it. As part of that, and going back to Commissioner Kriz, his comments, I'd like to see, you know, a cart path basically go around that gate also, so the people coming out of back section of Kedron Hills can actually utilize their golf carts, because to get to the southern part of Sumner Road, it is quite a trek to get to the north from those people coming from the 2 new sections, as well as people wanting to go from the back part of Kedron to possibly go to any of those locations, you know, whether or not there's you know, any traffic going across over to Publix or not. So I'd like to see some type of bypass or path around that gate for golf carts. Also agree that the condition that staff's put forward for the connection, you know, with the golf cart path on Sumner Road. But I'd like to see more, as Commissioner Chris said, you know, here's an opportunity to go ahead and really make great connectivity. You know, I think City Council is really looking at expanding, from what my understanding is, you know, not just considering golf carts, but considering, you know, more of the e-bikes, the electric personal vehicles that we're seeing that just aren't golf carts anymore. And especially with that mixed-use development that's eventually going to be going in off of 54, there's a great opportunity to start to connect our city better and better when we have the opportunity to do so. So I'd really like to see that. And I agree. I think it's important, to keep the traffic or to keep the construction traffic off of Sumner Road or onto Sumner Road and not going through Kedron Hills. I think that's the last thing any of us would want to see. So I think there's an opportunity to put a condition there that the construction traffic be on Sumner Road and not through Kedron Hills. So I think we have a lot of comments. We have a lot of concerns. We've asked a lot of questions. Some of those we don't have answers. Some of those I think, quite frankly, it needs to go back and be reviewed by the applicant. For probably some additional work. But before we go ahead and make a final, decision on this, I believe, Mr. Lindsay, you would like to say something?
Yes.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, just a second, please. Boy, Jason writes as badly as I do. Hi. The applicant will agree, I think, with all of the conditions that you guys have brought up this evening, but I'd like to go back through those. But I would like to address one thing before we go any further, Scott. My client talked to Mr. Bradshaw about, can we do a plan for phase 3, and was flat out told no.
Sure.
Mr. Bradshaw has every right to sell that property to anybody else, but looking at what's available there, that can be built upon, you're probably looking at another 20 lots, but for the actual plan, whether Mr. Bradshaw wants to sell that land eventually one day to my client, I don't know, but it's his right to hold on to it forever if he wants to.
And before you go any further, Mr. Lindsay, let me ask you this, and I know that the Bradshaw family owned a sizable part of that property throughout that area. With your knowledge, was the property that abuts Sumner Road, which is part of Smoke Rise, just south of where the development is currently proposed, was that also owned by the Bradshaw family?
I do not know. I do know that I used to have a lot of interesting conversations between the council and Mr. Bradshaw years ago. But he's owned a large chunk of that property for a long period of time.
Right. And like I said, it was my understanding that.
Jason says that he did own that property down there.
Another subdivision in the county to our right, yes. Our property below us, yes.
Okay.
Not, okay.
Yeah. And I think that goes back again to what Commissioner, Hamner said, and it kind of goes back to what I said, we've done things piecemeal where a piece of property has come up, it's been developed, a piece of property it's come up, it's been developed, not really planning ahead and looking ahead as to, access and connectivity between those, because quite frankly, if it was me and if I was developing all of that, I would have done that totally different than what it is now. And of course, hindsight is 20/20, but we are left with what we have.
Right, and well, the great bulk of the property in Peachtree City was owned by, eventually Equitable, and then Peachtree City Development Corporation. Right. And when they were the sole owner of the bulk of land, then you could do those plans.
Right.
But when you got into what I'll say is the remnants, the infill, even though this is larger than infill, then it becomes more of a challenge because you don't have that single entity thinking everything through.
It's just unfortunate that, in the past we didn't think, but what about? What about this? Like I said, those streets in both Kedron Hills as well as Smoke Rise have been stubbed for quite a while. So there was something eventually going to go there. And if you didn't think that was going to happen, then I'm sorry you thought that probably wouldn't happen, but it was going to at some point in time. So, it's just unfortunate that thinking wasn't in place back in those days. But Mr. Lindsay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, this has been going on for about a year. I know the conversations before this body. So what we heard this evening for some additional conditions, a gate. My client really doesn't have a position on that. opposed to it or in favor of it. Just saw the email comments that came in. Some folks were in favor of it, some were opposed. Originally, we were thinking too, like you, between phase 1 and phase 2 would be the place to put it. But perhaps it does make more sense to limit access on the northern part of phase 2 to emergency vehicles and to put some type of gate or chain or whatever, but work with engineering and with the first responders to what type of limited access should be up there, but not for residents, but for emergency vehicles. We are fine with that. We're also fine with doing a golf cart connection up on that side so it goes around that gate or whatever you want to call it. Limiting the construction traffic to come off of Sumner Road, absolutely not a problem, particularly if it's if it's blocked up on the north side. That's where they're going to have to come through anyway. The connectivity between phase 1 and phase 2 is not up on the map right now on the screen. We'll do that connection when and not have a CO for phase 2 until that's built. But of course, if we block access to Astoria Lane, then that's kind of doesn't really not going to happen any other way, right? But that's when we would build the connection over the creek, is when phase 2 comes in. I'm looking to see any other notes. I think there was one other one, Commissioner, that you had, and I don't have it written down. Maybe it was your number 3.
Three was all construction traffic for both phases shall enter and exit via Sumner Road exclusively. I think 4, before any grading permit is issued, the developer shall submit a construction traffic management plan to the city
Okay.
engineer for review and approval.
I think that works. This is with number 3 as well. And as we go forward on this, I would suggest that staff talk to the developer about possible additional cart paths or systems inside internally with this to make sure that golf carts can get from the northern end to the southern end safely. But that, again, is let the staff talk to Mr. Floyd about that.
I don't know about you gentlemen, I'd prefer to see it laid out before we approve it. I want to see in a picture, in a map, what it's going to look like. You know, it's nice to hear that they're going to work with staff. I appreciate the concessions that are being made. I think that's very reasonable. However, I'm a very visual person. I know our fellow citizens are visual as well, and we all like to see plats and maps. So my recommendation to this group is that we postpone this until they can come back with a different layout.
Good, Commissioner.
How's the layout different in your mind?
So they talked a little bit about working with staff to put in where the multi-use path connections will be. I'd like to see that before
Okay.
I can give my approval.
Okay.
Again, my history with the city, cart path systems, whatever, put in as you get further down the process. 100 million years ago, concept plans used to be almost drawn by hand, and then it would go into engineering and then put everything in place. This is almost, it's not fully engineered, but this is a preliminary plat now. It's
I
supposed to be
understand that,
on-
Mr. Lindsay. You know, if you look at neighborhoods on the west side of Peachtree City, where I think the same argument was probably made at one point in time, the paths just were not created. They were not put in place, and folks just don't use them as much as people do on the other side of the city. So, from my standpoint, I really would appreciate seeing what you guys are considering putting in place before I can give my approval.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments?
No.
Discussion, Commissioners? Okay. Would somebody like to go ahead and
Can we?
make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to postpone,
So we'd want to defer.
to defer
Mhm.
until the next meeting?
So would you like it to be the next meeting as far as this month or the first meeting in April?
Move to approve move to defer to this topic until the first meeting in April.
Okay, so we have a motion to defer to the first meeting in April. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion to defer and second to the first meeting in April. Any other comments, questions?
Do we need to stipulate what we want done?
Yes, I think, perfect, yes, I think that would be great, before I get ahead of us. So we're looking at the gate, looking at the golf cart connection around the gate, the CO for phase two, which depending on the gate may take care of itself.
Yeah.
The construction traffic management plan, and the cart paths within the development for the connectivity. Is there anything else?
That sounds right.
Is the construction traffic management plan the same as a traffic study?
No.
No.
Then I would like to see a traffic study.
So would you like to see the details from the traffic study that was done, or would you like to request a new traffic
I'd like
study?
to request a new traffic study with this traffic and the development across the street, so it's complete, not what was done. Because the traffic study without it is incomplete.
I support that.
May I address that last request? This has already been rezoned, so you can have all the lots that fit in it legally.
That's
Nothing you can
okay.
do to stop it.
It's not about rezoning. We just wanna know
May
what
I
the
finish, and
implications.
then I'll listen to your request. I want to address that. Traffic studies are very expensive, very time-consuming. We're talking 60 homes here. Nothing triggers the need for a traffic study on this. But again, it's already been approved for this zoning. And so what a traffic study would do, I don't know, because you can't reduce the number of homes. It's already been approved. So legally, he already has the rights.
So the traffic study, whether you would need a light or not of outside of the neighborhood, it doesn't matter. Because he's,
At Sumner Road in this subdivision, there's
Correct.
no way to be, traffic light would be there. No way.
okay.
Traffic light's too expensive. Whether a traffic light would be needed on Sumner Road and 54, different issue. I understand that intersection, but not here.
I was in a meeting here about 15 years ago when we wanted a traffic study done on 54 where Chick-fil-A and all that is. And then it was gonna be $1.5 million. So it would be a huge cost.
So let me ask this question. The traffic study that was done for the mixed use that's going in, unfortunately, we don't have that in front of us. Would you be able to go ahead and, I think you said, provide that information to staff? Staff can go ahead and get that to us for we can at least take a look at it.
I mean, it looked at the main intersection at the commercial, which is opposite Genevieve Court, and the 2 or 3 intersections in each direction.
Okay.
It was a GDOT study as part of a project that's 95% towards permit.
But that was not taking into consideration this development at the time because that was not,
A traffic count
Proposed.
was put in the areas. So areas that are undeveloped, they look at the research, it's R43, they kind of come
Okay.
up with they come up with a fake traffic count.
that's what the question was going to be, so thank you.
They look at the envelope, and
Okay.
they actually put out traffic counters and all that.
Mhm.
They project it forward with 3.5% or 2.5% growth every year. That would be for this type thing, so it's quasi accounted for.
Okay. I guess Commissioner Halverson, would that be acceptable? At least we have that at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. That's more information we have now, which is nothing.
Okay, perfect, okay. So I guess we'll go ahead and so look at the feasibility, or look at the gate at Sims Road into phase 2, the golf cart connection around the gate, the certificate of occupancy to phase 2, the construction traffic management plan, and the golf cart paths within the development. Does that sum it up?
I think so.
Okay. So we have a motion to defer until the first April meeting. We have a second with those items. Anything from staff? Yes?
I just actually have the date, April 13th.
April
If you want to
13th.
add that to the motion.
Okay. So this would be referred until April 13th. Do we need anything else before we go forward? Okay.
Wait for Andrew to reword it.
Okay.
You want to go ahead and give that a try?
I move that we defer, what is this item? The conceptual plat for Bradshaw Estates, 201 Sumner Road, until April 13th with the following considerations. We'd like to see the gate at Sims Road into Phase 2, golf cart connection around the gate, the
Certificate of occupancy.
certificate of occupancy.
What do you mean by that?
Which one? Number 3?
Certificate of occupancy.
So I guess Commissioner Hamner, would you, I was taking from yours on that. So basically not issue any building approvals in Phase 2.
Pull up my exact wording real quick. No certificate of occupancy shall be issued for any home in Bradshaw North until the vehicular connecting road between the north and south phases crossing the creek are fully constructed, paved, and accepted by the city engineer.
And I guess, do we really, thinking if we're looking at the gate at the top section of Sims Road coming from Kedron Hills, do we need to have that stipulation?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Scratch.
Okay, we'll
Okay,
scratch that.
yep.
So we only have the 2 so far, and then number 3 would be the traffic or construction management plan, and number 4 would be the golf cart paths within the development.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it. Okay.
We need a second.
Okay. So we heard it revised. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? No. All those in favor of deferring this to the April 13th Planning Commission meeting with the 4 items signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, the conceptual plat Bradshaw Estates 201 Sumner Road is deferred until April 13th with the items so noted. Okay, thank you all. Okay, we have no public hearings. Do we have any member staff topics? Is there anything?
Only thing that I have is that, sorry, I am working on that training session for you all. I've communicated with the meeting facilitator to get a little bit more detail on some things. So I will try to respond back to you as early as maybe tomorrow once she responds back to me. If not, I'll give her a call.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything from the commissioners? Any topics? No?
Thank you to everybody for coming out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and as we've all said, you know, your input as residents and citizens of Peachtree City, very important to us. You know, we always like to see you all come out. And at times, we have our planning commission meeting and there's literally not one person other than staff and the commissioners and possibly the applicant in the room. And these are your opportunities to get involved in your community. You know, even though we don't have a public hearing on this, you know, your input to staff and the city is important. City council, you know, they listen, they watch this, they see what's going on, and it's important to them also. So, you know, I always look and ask, you know, please be more involved in your city, so you don't have that, well, I didn't know about that, and how did that happen? You know, it's very important to really, like I said, be involved in things that are going on, even if it's not in your neighborhood. It's in someone else's neighborhood, and you know, your experiences, your thoughts, your recommendations could have a very positive impact on what happens in other locations in the city. So just consider that as you know, we go forward with different things, not only on the planning commission, but all the other commissions that we have within the city. So, but thank you for all coming out tonight, and we appreciate that. So, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Third.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second, third, and fourth.
Motion to adjourn and a second. All those in